right, we're going to get started here. It takes a little while for people to, and then after getting the popcorn and soda pop and sitting down in these luxurious theater seats. And so, if you know Paul and Kim at all, be sure and thank them. Louder. Somebody say louder. Okay. If you know Paul and Kim at all, be sure and thank them for the privilege of meeting here on a monthly basis. If you don't know them, come to a movie here. They regularly have angel movies here. They're very much worth coming to. And so there's that. The tonight's speaker is so darn good that I just want to. Can't hear you. Tonight's speaker is so good that I want to get on stage here real quick. And but I'm so overwhelmed with how many of you are here, like always. And you know, I'm Tom Bluehorse, and my wife Kathy and I serve as president of this club. But I'm part of the board of directors, and our board of directors is an amazing team. And our board of directors speak with each other all the time. My gosh, this movement is so amazing. It's so unbelievable. We have to pinch ourselves sometimes that every month we're getting a good crowd. I got a couple new people. I wasn't going to do this because I wanted to get started with our speaker, but gosh, I've got somebody new from Pilot Grove, Bill and Pam Shipman. Raise your hands, Bill and Pam, right there. They heard because they heard about our club. They wanted to come tonight, so thank you so much for that. And Bill actually served on the Border Patrol in 1966, is my understanding. And we got another new guy, David Perkins here. Dave, raise your hands. Thank you for coming, David. And I got to make this comment. So many people, as you know, we're transitioning to a Turning Point, our TP Active Club, Charlie Kirk Club, and thank you. And we had this amazing float in 3 parades in the last 3 weeks. Raise your hand if you have participated in either riding or walking behind the float, because look at this. Look at this. In Slater and in Marshall's High School homecoming and Missouri Valley College homecoming, and we were very well received. And when we weren't very well received, that was a good thing too, if you ask me. So anyway, and we'll probably have another float like the Christmas float. And if you want to feel like you are patriotic and being active, come join us in the float for the Christmas Day parade. That's going to be in December sometime. And I'm sure you all like the Charlie Kirk highlights. We've got to thank Tom and Marty Smith for doing that for us. I mean, people have called me or texted me this week saying, I hope you're doing the Charlie Kirk highlights again, because we want to come for that. And so anyway, there's that. You know, one of the reasons I think that the people in this room like gathering with each other is that we are not people that have lived our lives just sitting around and seeing what happens to us. If you live your life by just sitting around and seeing what happens to you, it's not likely to be very good. I think we're people in this room that live our lives with purpose. You live life with purpose by being curious, by being creative, by being industrious, by being disciplined, by being honest, and by being positive. And the nice thing about that is that's exactly what our founding fathers were. They lived life with those principles. And I'm proud of us for that. Our club has, I think the reason we're transitioning to a Turning Point USA Club is because we focus on a message each month, not politics. And we have speakers that give us a message based upon facts and truth and logic and common sense. Facts, truth, logic, and common sense. And that's what we're hungry for. And so tonight, there's no exception. Our speaker tonight is going to be absolutely amazing. I'd like to say you're going to enjoy this message, but I think that's not quite right. This message is going to be annoying and disturbing a little bit because it's truly based on facts, truth, logic, and common sense. This is what happened at the border, what's happening in our country. And so with that, as is customary, we start our meetings with prayer and pledge of allegiance. And as customary, we ask somebody from the audience to say the prayer, give the pledge, and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, Larry Wheatley is going to say the prayer, lead us in pledge. Larry comes from Sedalia. He always brings his friend Mike Layton with him. Larry and Mike rarely miss our meetings. They've gone to 3 Lincoln Day in a row from Sedalia. And Larry served in the military for 22 years, I think, or something like that. And Larry famously tells me that family, God, family, country, and patriotism is not an accident, that's an intention. And I've always liked that about Larry feeling that way. So I would like first to stand up, those of you that have served our country in the military, could you stand first because we want to honor your service to our country. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And if you have, if you're a first responder, Andreas, I know you're here. If you're a first responder, fire department, police, sheriff, ambulance, stand up next. And so, rest of you can now stand, and Larry, you can come up here.
Let us pray. Let's remove our hats. And Heavenly Father, we are so thankful, Lord, that we have the freedom to be able to meet in a place like this, to be able to talk freely about truthful things, about reality. And Lord, I pray that, Father, that you would just allow us to focus, Lord, on the message tonight, that we would hear your voice, Lord, Father, and our speaker has to say. And Lord, we give you honor and we give you praise. And we thank you, Lord, for like-minded folks who come together to meet under an umbrella of freedom with a passion for you. And Lord, I believe that our patriotism, like Tom said, is not by accident, but it's intentionality on our part. And Lord, we just give you all the praise and all the glory, and we thank you, Lord, for this time of togetherness, Lord Father. Guide our conversations, protect our hearts. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
JJ, you can make your way to the front. I'm not going to put effort into introducing JJ. I'll let you do that yourself and what you have done for years. JJ does have books, and I'll let JJ talk about all that. JJ, it's all yours.
Thank you, Tom. I'm very excited to be here tonight. Let me get over here then. Because I want to talk to you about something that is very important, and that is the survival of our country. And we all feel it. I know we do. I talk to people all the time at an at show. People email me. We all feel uneasy, like something's not right. And the reason why we feel that way is because it isn't right. And I believe historians 100 years from now are going to write about this time in American history. And they're either going to write one of two things. They're going to write about the destruction of the United States of America, or they're going to talk about this being the time that the American citizen took back their country. I don't think there's any gray area. I really don't. And I want to talk to you tonight about the subject that why we're in this, or I feel, and I believe, that we are in this very, very difficult time in American history. And that is because we are facing a demographic upheaval, a demographic explosion caused by illegal immigration. Now, before I get started, I want to take just a few minutes, and I want to just take these moments to tell you who I am, because I think it's very important. When I go and spend my time listening to somebody, even somewhere live, on a podcast, or I read someone's article, I want to know what their perspective is. Why do they think that they can write or do a documentary or give a speech and claim they're the expert and that I need to listen to them? Because there's a lot of guys out there and gals that have no idea what they're talking about. On major talk shows, Fox News, I go down the list, politicians. So let me tell you, beginning, who I'm not. I'm not some guy that took pictures of the border through binoculars. I'm not a guy that is academic, meaning I'm at some think tank in Washington, D.C., reading about it. I was a guy that was down on the border for 24 years. I worked the California corridor and the Arizona corridor. I ran task forces, big and small. I know everybody's watching Donald Trump bomb the narco smugglers coming in from Venezuela, Colombia, and now on the Pacific Coast with the Sinaloa drug cartel. I created a unit called CBET. We did this in the 2009 to 2015. I created and ran a 60-man unit, and because we didn't have a president that took this war on drugs serious, I was on the beaches from San Diego all the way to Santa Barbara every night, taking down narco smugglers. I know what a legal alien from MS-13, TDA, I know the gardeners, the landscapers, I know everything in between, because I did it. I was there. I made my bones all the way up to senior leadership in the Border Patrol. It was not because I was an administrative guy. I was solely a task force, boots on the ground kind of guy. I knew that was a longer way to get promoted, but I believed that's the way I needed to do it, because when I became a leader, I wanted to tell people that we need to do something, and I don't want them to look at me and think, this guy's never done it. They looked at me and said, he's done it 1,000 times. So my last year in the United States Border Patrol, I was a deputy patrol agent in charge. My last year in the Border Patrol was Joe Biden's first year. I witnessed firsthand the treason. And let me be very clear, I don't stutter about this. I don't hem and haw. I wrote a book with the title Treason. And I did it not for clicks or to sell books. I did it because I felt and I believed in the depth of my soul that those people that ran that administration were traitors to America. And they brought forth this demographic time bomb that is sitting in America right now. So let's dive right into this time bomb, this demographic time bomb. But I want, before we get started, I want to be able to articulate the real number of illegal aliens that are in America. Because you hear it all over. They lie, constantly lie. Both parties too, and I want you to be clear that this is a bipartisan Democrat-Republican issue. Who controlled the purse the last 2 years of Joe Biden's administration? The Republicans did. And the Republicans under Speaker Johnson funded, beyond what Nancy Pelosi would have asked for, funded everything that Joe Biden wanted to do. He funded the NGOs, the non-governmental organizations, both domestically and foreign, to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars at our demise. But let's be clear on the baseline of what we're talking about. We're not talking about 10 million illegal aliens and that nonsense that they try to spew to us. There are 50 million illegal aliens in America right now. And I want you, as we move forward, I want you to fact check everything I say. Everything I tell you is not going to be on my feelings, what I believe, what I think, what I theoretically believe is going to happen. This is from 24 years experience. I wrote 2 best-selling books, I did 2 documentaries, and I testified in front of Congress about this. Everything that I say has been fact-checked and researched. 50 million, how do I get 50 million? Because at first people push back and go, that's insane. 2019, MIT and Yale did a comprehensive demographic study of America, focusing on illegal aliens. They pushed all this demographic data into an algorithm, ran that algorithm 1 million times, and came to an average of 22 million illegals were in America in 2019. And everyone, I was there, I researched this constantly in my job. I was a policy and law expert. I wanted to know what the heck was going on in my agency. All the academics, all the media, all the politicians jumped up and said, yeah, it's 22 million, it's 22 million. The height of that algorithm said it was 29 and 30 million. I knew it was closer to 30 million, but they would not allow that number to become known. So everyone agreed to 22 million. 22 million people in America are illegal in 2019. Fast forward to the end of Joe Biden's term in 4 years. Joe Biden's administration admitted, had to be forced to admit through FOIAs, through records, that they brought in approximately 18 million people. That's what they admitted to. Donald Trump started his second term saying, well, Joe Biden let in 10 million. 2 months later, I'm watching this, I'm like, who is his senior leader telling him this nonsense? It's absurd. Anybody knows just looking at the prior administration's data reports, for goodness sake. Then 2 months later, he jumped to 15 million. 2 months later, he jumps to 20. Last month, he admits openly, yeah, under Joe Biden, 25 million people came into America. I'm telling you the number has surpassed 30 million in 4 years under Joe Biden. And everyone that's in the business that I'm in, guys that did the job, know it, they all swear by it. But we're splitting hairs right now. So under Joe Biden admits that there's 40 million. Donald Trump says there's 45-ish, 48 million. I'm saying it's 50, 52. Let's just split the hairs and say 50 million. 50 million illegal aliens are in America right now. It's not disputed. It's a fact. 1 in 6 to 1 in 7 residents, people that live in America, are illegal aliens. Why do you think we're bankrupt? Why do you think the infrastructure is destroyed? Look at SNAP. That's the big talking point this week. SNAP. Now we find out that SNAP, the welfare benefit, 59% of everyone receiving SNAP is a foreign national. Do you understand what I just said? Hundreds of billions of dollars a year go to foreign nationals to feed them. Who here has $4,000 grocery bill every month? Not me. They do. It's beyond absurd. 50 million. And you think, how could it get worse than that? Well, it can, because Marco Rubio came out last month and had to admit that there are 55 million visa holders in America. So I'm telling you right now, 105, when I say it, I have to catch myself because it's so absurd. 105 million people living in America are foreign nationals. Why do you think we have a housing crisis? Does it make sense to anybody now? We have an infrastructure built in America, financial, physical infrastructure, cultural norms, societal norms, built for 340 million people. But we're servicing over 450 million people. It begins to make sense. Tom said it right. You're not going to really like what I have to say. And I've got to the point that I've been doing this for about 2 years now, after I retired and wrote books and did all that, and I started getting on a speaking tour, and I made a promise to myself, I'm not going to talk to people and make them feel good. I'm just not, because there's nothing to really say to make them feel good. That's just the truth. I'm not a black pillar. I'm not a doomsday. I'm just some dude that has been there and done it, that's crunched the numbers, have done the research, and this is what has come out. It's indisputable. Many people are saying openly now that something has to give. That's the new phrase. Something has to give. Something has to give. And it's going to be either or. There's going to be no in between. Demographics in the United States of America are exploding. 105 million people in America are foreign nationals. Under the Constitution, you cannot be a U.S. citizen if you are not born in America, and here's the kicker. It doesn't say maybe, or we can think about it, and, not or, and be under the jurisdiction thereof of the country. Meaning, if I'm a German national, and I come to America on a traveler's visa, visitor visa, and I go to the Grand Canyon, and my wife's 7 months pregnant, and we're hiking the hills, and her water breaks, and she gives birth prematurely. That child is born in America, but under the jurisdiction of the German government. Therefore, that child is a German national. That has never been disputed. Do you know where this birthright citizenship came from? People think it's been in the 1860s, Civil War. No. It came from it's called a dicta, D-I-C-T-A, in the 1980s, I think it was Supreme Court Justice Brennan under Ronald Reagan, made a flippant statement and wrote down, yeah, all you have to be born in the United States of America to be a citizen. And that became the law. It's not the law. So why do I bring up birthright citizenship? You have 105 million people, and they're having babies in America. This is the demographic time bomb that the Democrats placed in the middle of America. How do you change a nation? Do I come to you here in small town middle America in Marshall and convince you that you don't need First Amendment? You need to give all your guns away? Don't worry about the Constitution. It's a living, breathing document. You're never going to convince anybody here. You're not. So how do you change the way we think? You bring in people to replace you. And they did that. The vast majority of all illegal aliens that come into America are illiterate in their own language. Speaking English, writing English, reading English is like me trying to learn quantum physics. It's not going to happen. So they are completely and utterly dependent on the federal government, vis-a-vis the SNAP program as one example. In my book, Treason, I use UN data, and I take all of the demographics that were brought into America. In 4 years under Joe Biden, there's 195 nations on planet Earth. Over 180 different nationalities were in the Border Patrol arrest data. 180 plus nations, meaning the whole world came to America. 30 million people. I lived it, I watched it. Who were in those 30 million? 200,000 special interest aliens. Those are known as terrorists. Arrested and released. Do you know how many people that I arrested? And I arrested indirectly and directly at least 100,000 people in 24 years running stations and task forces. Do you know how many special interest aliens I arrested? 4. 4. In 24 years, and I was one of the highest producing guys. Over 200,000 terrorists were arrested and then released. Over 100,000 Chinese nationals were identified as PLA soldiers and they were released. Millions, not hundreds of thousands, millions with an S, hardcore gangbangers, violent felons were arrested and released. In one small grouping, ICE had to admit that they brought in, arrested, identified, and then released 11,000 rapists. At the same grouping of people that they surveyed out of the groups of arrest, 15,000 murderers were arrested, identified as a murderer, and then released into America. This is hard data. We have been sold by the elites. We have been sold by the political elites and the corporate elite. We have a demographic time bomb. What does that look like? Give me some numbers. Our women in America have a birth rate lower than the replacement level. The replacement level is 2.1. To have a country continue on. 1.8 is like you're dying. You're hanging on, you maybe have a chance. Our women are reproducing at a 1.6. That's death. That's a dying nation. The people that we brought into America reproduce up to 5 times the replacement level. This is a bad math problem, and we lose. This is the reason I come. I came from Kansas, an hour and a half, and I thank God I have the opportunity to speak to you. But this is why I come. This is why I go on talk shows. This is why I write books. Is when my son, who's 14 years old, comes to me when he has children, God willing, and he says, what did you do, Dad? Son, you know what I did. I didn't sit back, worry about being canceled, being called a racist, a Christian nationalist, whatever the hell that term that you want to label me is, that's fine. I've been called it my whole life. As a big white man in law enforcement, I've heard it all. And I'm none of those things. I am a Christian nationalist. I am America first, and I am solely a MAGA guy, make America great again. I'm not going to apologize for that. But if I am honest, and I believe if any, I have a lot of character flaws, but being dishonest is not one of them. I am a MAGA guy. I'm a Trump guy. I love what he's done. Hasn't done enough. But he's done beyond what I could even have envisioned. But if I look at the term MAGA, then I have to be honest if I believe that term. Make America great again. That's a statement, and it's an allegation. I'm saying that America is not great right now. And that's the cold stone truth, and it's hard for patriots like us to say that out loud. We are being replaced. This is not an American phenomenon. This is happening across the globe under the global reset. Not my words, their words. They are fundamentally transforming the United States of America. Not my words, that's a quote from Barack Obama. American, Native American whites will be the majority minority in America, and that's a good thing. That's Joe Biden's quote. What does numbers look like? This has been going on from the late 60s, 70s, and I'd probably start tracking it around Ronald Reagan, unfortunately, when he gave amnesty. And he said it to his dying death, before he had dementia. He would openly admit, it's the worst thing I ever did. The absolute worst thing I ever did. What does our demographics look like? Late 60s, early 70s, 88 to 90, 88 to 89% of America was white, 10% was black, and Hispanics, Asians, etc., the 1.5%, 2%. Less than 50 years later, if I told you, well, white population's down to 80%, Hispanics came in, and we had better reproduction, blacks were Asian, nobody cares, because we're Americans. The honest truth is nobody in America really cares about race. We just don't. We just care about Americans. That's it. You believe in God, you keep your house clean, you're a good neighbor, you're there to help me, I'm there to help you. That's the truth. That's not what's happened in the 50 years. We have been systematically destroyed demographically. Right now, white Americans make up 60% of our nation. We lost 28 to 30% of our population. Blacks rose to 13%, but then got superseded by Hispanics. Black Americans are not even the #1 minority in America. No, hardly anybody knows that. Did anybody vote for this? I didn't. If this was organic, it's a different story, like I said. This was not organic. This is the Great Reset. Western Europe, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, majority white Christian nations have been invaded. Name me one other nation, non-white, that has been invaded and had their populations completely destroyed. You can't. It doesn't exist. So do you think this is organic? I mean, we could go down Europe. I can talk France, Sweden. Sweden in the 1990s was almost 100% white. It dropped down to 88% foreign-born Swedes. 12% were foreign nationals. They counted foreign nationals as Finland. So basically they were 100% white. They're down to 60%, and now all their foreign nationals are about 40% Muslims. They are the #1 raped nation in Western Europe. And they just allow it to happen. France destroyed it. England, the top 10 cities in the UK have Muslim mayors. You don't think that's going to happen here? We brought in, out of 30 million people in 4 years, we brought in 60 to 70% of everyone that came in was a single adult military-age man from the continent of Africa, the Middle East, Haiti, and Venezuela. That's just data. That's 18 million, 20 million. How do you think that's going to play out in America over time? It's not. So let's talk about what Donald Trump is doing right now. Donald Trump came in and he shut the border down on day one. Down. I talked to my buddies who were calling me and they were saying, "You will not believe this, the border's closed." I go, "What do you mean?" "No one's crossing, JJ. No one." Call my guys in Texas, Arizona, California. No one's crossing. Donald Trump brought the military. He still needs to bring more military down there to shut it down. Because I'm going to give you the analogy that I use. When you live in where we live, Missouri, Kansas, we have basements, right? Imagine your main breaks and your basement's flooded. The water rose up the steps. Now it's a foot on the first floor. What do? I run out to the street. I shut my main off. That's what Donald Trump did. He ran to the street and he shut it off. No one's coming in. Now what do? I have to get that water out of my house as fast as I can because mold is going to begin to devour my house. So I bring in pumps. I bring in everything I can to suck that water out. That's what Donald Trump is trying to do right now. But I'm going to give you the analogy of what he is accomplishing. He is doing deportations in America the same way as I would be emptying out my basement with a red Solo cup. It's going to take forever. And it's not going to happen unless something drastically changes. And what changed today, or late last night? Donald Trump came in through Stephen Miller, his White House advisor, and said, all the ICE guys that are in charge, they're removed. Trump came in and did like a 12 to 15 senior leader clean house. Border Patrol now is taking the lead. That's the only way. The only way this is going to happen is if military, and I'm not talking about 200 National Guard, I'm talking about Marines, I'm talking about Delta Forces, I'm talking about all the special forces embedded with Border Patrol and ICE to secure their safety because they're all being attacked. Border Patrol agents were shot at today. It's a matter of time, not an if. It will be a when. Our boys die on the streets at the hands of illegal aliens and activists. It's a fact. Donald Trump has to initiate a national security. because this is a national security issue in America. Will he do it? I would have bet money yes, because he's Donald Trump. But it has to have happened prior. He is doing something that I believe is absolutely spot on. He's attacking the issue from all angles. Offering money to self-deport, 2 million people gone. He's going and using state and local. He's using all of the agencies to go and arrest and remove. It's still not enough. One of the major trends in illegal immigration is visa overstays. I told you there's 55 million legal visa holders in America. If 1% overstays, and I'm being grossly generous, 1%, 550,000 illegal aliens added to the 50 million. I would feel comfortable standing in front of Congress, which I hope to never ever do again, and testify. I would be comfortable at least 15 to 20% are overstaying annually. And you say, well, ICE will go get them. That's not ICE's job. Do you know there's 6,000 ICE officers trying to arrest 50 million illegal aliens? USCIS, the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service, is responsible for the visa enter-exit. There's 20,000 people in that agency. 10,000 do nothing, they're administrative. The other 10,000, I'm being very, very generous, 10,000 monitor the 55 million. Those 10,000 USCIS officers have zero arrest authority. Do you see the boondoggle that has been created in America? Do you think this great nation with all of its great people, this happened because we're stupid? Or do you think it happened because it's part of the plan? America is being assaulted from every front. Let me put this into context for you to tell you what has happened to our nation in 4 years under Joe Biden and what Donald Trump's trying to eradicate and change. I asked the gentleman before I came in, what's the population here in Marshall? 14,000. Do you understand on one of the bad days in Joe Biden's term, on a bad day, he brought in 10,000. There were days in 2023, he was averaging over 20,000 illegal aliens were being arrested on the southern border and were being released into America. 1.5 times your city was being brought into America every single day. You don't see it here yet. When the money runs out for SNAP and the arrests start to skyrocket because the Border Patrol's in charge now, they're going to flee. Kansas City, Missouri is not far from here. The mayor of Kansas City welcomed illegal aliens to his city. That city's 30 miles north of where I live. There is going to be pain and suffering. I could come up here and read one article after another, after another, after another, and never scratch the surface of how many men and women are murdered every day, raped every day, assaulted every day, children trafficked sexually every day by illegal aliens. I don't even have the time to dive into what I have a documentary that was critically acclaimed, and that's why I was called in front of Congress to talk about the child sex trafficking. Our government trafficked 550,000 unaccompanied alien children called UACs, ages from babies, like they just came out of the womb, babies, to 17 years old. Lost them all of them sex trafficked. To date, as of right now, only 25,000 have been found under the Trump administration. 25,000. The vast majority were being sex and labor trafficked, and a significant percentage of them were found dead. And your prayer should be that all of those children have died, instead of being subjected to horrific life. Just so you leave with this about child sex trafficking. The United States of America is the #1 consumer of child pornography in the world. The United States of America is #1 producer of pornography in the world. The United States of America is one of the top nations in the world that pays money to rape children. And we brought in 550,000 in 4 years. And we lost them all. The first thing Joe Biden did when he became president, what did he do? When it came to children that were arrested on the border, he removed the paternity test, the DNA test. Don't have to do it. We were releasing children to traffickers, and we knew it on the border. This is why I say America is not at a crossroad anymore. That was years ago. We are in a moment in time in American history where we are going to have to be strong and demand change. This is not the United States of America that I grew up in. And this is not the United States of America that I want to turn this over to my son. It's not. And people ask me, as I'm going to end, what do I do? And I tell people, there's a million things you can do and a million things I can sit up here and try to convince you. But the one thing that I'm going to tell you you're going to have to do, you're going to have to be bold. And you're going to have to say bold things. How do you think we got here? You think we got here because men stood up and fought for our religious and Christian values? You really think that's true? I lay it all at the Christian man's feet, all of it. We failed our wives and our women and our children because we were afraid to be called nasty names, vile names, like a racist or a xenophobe. It seems ridiculous now, doesn't it? So now we have the mutilation of our children. We have 60+ million babies have been murdered in abortion. We have transgender insanity in our schools. We have the LGBTQ flag flying inside God's house of worship. We have corrupt politicians that make $175,000 a year. They're on the same retirement system as I am, and they come out the same time and service as I have, and they're a millionaire, $3, $4, $5, $20, $100 million. You must be bold. The time for political discord and civility is over. Am I kind? Do I open a door for someone? Am I polite? Am I sympathetic? Yes, 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 and yes. But if you're going to sit there and talk to me about politics, you're going to talk to me about sexual perversion, you're going to talk to me about a gay Jesus instead of a strong, masculine Son of God, I'm not going to sit there and take that verbal abuse from you. I'm going to tell you, no, you're wrong, this is what I believe, and this is the reasons why I believe it, and the facts. And if I lose friends, then I lose friends. We are at that moment right now. I'm begging you, and I'm telling you, if we are not bold in our speech, if we do not take a stand for our nation, we will lose it, and it will be our fault, and historians will lay the blame right at our feet. I will guarantee that. But if you are bold, if you do not kneel to the mental patients that run our nation, and you stand up and you take your nation back, historians will talk about us as we were champions of freedom. It's an either or. There is no gray area. You must make a choice. I made mine. You have to ask yourself, what side of history, what side are you on, good or evil? And it's that clean. It's that decisive. You are either on the good side or you're on the evil side. There is no gray area anymore. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, JJ. A couple things I want to point out. I've read this book, Treason. It's an easy read. $15. And if you wished you could remember everything he said, it's pretty much in that book. And it's an easy read, and it's worth $15. I'll put the plug in for that. Secondly, we video our programs all the time. So, Marty, what do they look up to find our program? How do they do that?
Well, it's gonna, since we've shut down the other one and we've switched to the new one, I've got it under mine. I can get you the link, but I don't know what it's gonna be on YouTube, but I don't know what the actual.
We'll answer that question later then.
Yeah.
Because it's too complicated.
Yeah, it is.
And did you say it is? You said it's too complicated for me, Marty.
Well, it's complicated for me to explain right now.
So the book Treason, it's worth buying, and we got 101 people here tonight. Thank you all so much for that. So, let me open with this question. There's I think a country song says that goes, try that in a small town, and so I believe, and then when I see what's going on in Chicago with the Chicago mayor and the idiotic things that he says. Are there people in Chicago that are just like us that are so trapped they just keep their mouths shut, or because their lives and their way of living is in danger?
Yeah, I do believe there's people like us that want, and I see them being interviewed, and there are people like us, but I started to feel as if, well, there's way more than us than them. And I found that I don't believe that's true anymore. I think that our nation is so divided. And when you look at what's happening in Chicago, they're brutalizing my guys up there. They're boxing them in. If you've ever been in law enforcement, when you get boxed in, vehicles swarm you where you can't move, and you're like in a death valley. You're in your mind and your training, you think, I have to come out and I got to come out shooting because somebody's doing this to kill me. They're doing that. They're hurting everybody. You have the mayor, Johnson, you have Pritzker. But this is one thing I would tell Donald Trump, and people are in his orbit are saying it to him. You're going to have to arrest those people. You're going to have to go and arrest Pritzker. It's all or nothing. I really believe I'm a very black and white man. But I will deal with nuances, and I can say, okay, we can try, let's talk this out. I don't see any other way. This has to be an all or nothing, because the people on the other side, they're all or nothing. Look what happened. You have Charlie Kirk on the screen. They killed that young man. Killed him. They tried to kill our president at least twice. Do you think they're going to stop? No. So why are we so sophomoric in our response? That's a question that we need to ask each other.
Probably part of the game, I would guess, is that they're trying to force our agents into doing something really, in defending themselves, kill some people, and then, we'll take it from there. But are they trying to force our agents to do something like that, realistically?
Well, here's the real problem with ICE. So ICE, I don't want to bag them, but ICE is a white-collar organization, okay? They're doing alien smuggling, court, jail check, and it's very important. And then inside of ICE, Donald Trump had agents from the FBI, IRS, DEA. So all of these, how many IRS agents have made street arrests in their career? None. How many FBI, and I have FBI in my family, FBI made street arrests? 0. DEA, same thing. Maybe some DA undercover do some hard takedowns, but mainly it's clean. It's CSI, Miami type stuff. When you make a street arrest, as you've been watching these videos, you either know how to do a street arrest or you get handled. And those agents are I'm embarrassed as a law enforcement guy watching this happen. Even my son says as he's watching, Dad, you would never let that happen. No, son, that would never happen. So that's why you're seeing, Tom, President Trump yesterday through Stephen Miller, his senior White House advisor, say, these ICE leaders are fired. They call it reassigned. In law enforcement, it's called you got terminated. You got removed, you're gonna do staples and paper clips. And they're gonna bring up Border Patrol agents, because Border Patrol agents live in that street arrest mode and are ready to take decisive use of force action. But it will get worse. There will be blood spilled on the streets of America.
Anybody have a question? I'm coming right back there.
I saw on television they were talking about they had so many Border Patrol applications, like 180,000 to 200,000. How long would it take to go through the process of getting even half of that many on the job and get trained?
No, that's an incredible question. So there's two things that are happening. One is they're doing a rehire of guys like me, and I have already signed up and passed all my stuff, and I'm just waiting, literally waiting for them to email me and say, you're starting, go. So I will be going back. So we have that. I talked to the HR people, and they tell me they're fast tracking all of these people, but when you open up hiring like this, it's a disaster. So in a really perfect world, this is how it works. I apply, I get an applicant, that applicant I see meets the requirement, I put them through a stringent background check, and 6 months to a year later, I hire that person. Then that person has to go to an academy for 5 months. If they pass the academy, then they go into the field and then they get further training. It's not like you're going to Starbucks and learn how to do a Frappuccino and then you're going. You're going to be 5-6 months into training and then you still have no idea what the hell you're doing. I'm just telling you, your head is spinning. 3 years in, you have a productive agent. Now they're condensing it down to 4 months hiring, get through the academy. They move the PT requirement, physical training requirement, was always kind of like at the end. You kind of trained into doing your final test and then you got graduated right because everybody's fit. So many guys and gals are failing out. They moved the PT test to the beginning and people are running one lap and they're collapsing and they're having ambulances come down. So the idea that Donald Trump wants 10, 20,000 new agents, I applaud it, but it's laughable at best. 3 years to get an agent that has an idea of what he's doing. It's like you talk to a police officer. It's about year 5 or 7 that you become, you're really good. Like you're really good. You know what the hell's going on. This is absurd. You have to go all in with the military. Do you keep hiring? Yeah. You keep that machine going. They don't even have enough people to train the people they hire. It's a process. You can't rush somebody to learn how to be a law enforcement officer because you're going to get violent use of forces, you're going to get shootings, you're going to get all this crazy stuff that someone like me or someone that has been in the business would have handled at the lowest level. But now, because we rushed this guy's first response is to break leather and bring his weapon out. Then the weapon comes out, then you get hit with a rock, now you're shooting, now people are dying, now we have chaos. So I appreciate that question because that's a very good one, but it is a 3-year process to get an average person, not a super agent, just an average.
Yes, sir. JJ, first of all, thanks for bringing the information you brought to us. It shed some light on a lot of the facts that you've embarked upon us. Second, my question though is, you mentioned the NGOs and you mentioned the southern border, and and I'm sure we have some of the same issues with the northern border as well.
Yes.
But I'm going to talk a little bit about the implosion within, and that is those illegal immigrants that are here, those who have overstayed visas, those, for lack of a better word, cells that have been planted. What do we do in terms of the Soros money, for example, that's been, that seems to be imploding into every single election that's taken place, especially in the blue cities?
Well, that's a great question. The NGOs, so I want everyone to understand the federal government used the NGOs to facilitate the transportation of tens of millions of people into America. The elite politicians also use the NGOs as a money laundering system to enrich their family members, to enrich them. So, you asked George Soros, well, you do what Hungary did in Poland. They banned him. Banned all his money. He's not even allowed in their country. He's Hungarian, for goodness sake. They said you can't come in. Trump's saying that he wants to trace the money, which Elon Musk was able to do. So, here's the quick NGO explanation 101, how George Soros does this. George Soros funds an NGO with, say, $10 million. Okay? I fund that NGO, $1 million, $10 million. It's nickels to him, but he has thousands of NGOs. So he'll fund one for $1 million. Then that NGO goes to the federal government and gets millions of dollars of grants. Our money funds George Soros NGOs. So when you listen to Elon Musk and you listen to people that, like myself, that know about NGOs, you come to the realization that we are funding our death. It's insane, but it's factually true. When you realize the NGOs, how does a congressman come out after 10 years and is worth tens of millions of dollars? Look at Senator Whitehouse, for example. His wife is on the NGO. She's not on the top NGO. She's on this NGO down here. And we funnel the tens of billions with a B to the top NGOs. Those NGOs launder it to their small NGOs, and guess who's on the small NGOs? All the politicians' spouses and the politicians themselves. And they get money from those NGOs. That's how they become wealthy. It's not stock trading. Yes, that's a big deal. But the fastest way to infuse cash into you is a legitimate washing of money and getting and paying a CEO, a consultant, or something like that. That's what our federal government has done with NGOs. And so we're very clear. And Elon Musk showed this. USAID funded tens of billions of dollars into foreign NGOs. Those foreign NGOs brought 30 million people from across the globe to our border. Then our government, through the DHS, laundered tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars to FEMA. FEMA then gave them to domestic NGOs that were vastly majority Christian religious based. Our faith structures smuggle people into America by the billions of dollars. I'll give you one example and I'll take another question. I'm Catholic, and it pains me to what's happened to my faith. Catholic Charities is a gigantic NGO tied to the Catholic Church. No matter what Catholics say, they're tied to the Catholic Church. How much money did the Catholic Church pay, not to lawyers, just pay to sexual victims since 2009? $5.2 billion. How much money, and I don't believe this to be the real number, but this is what they're saying. How much money did Catholic Charities receive from the federal government in terms of refugee resettlement in the same time frame? You'll think I'm making it up. $5.2 billion. Every religious organization the Baptists, the Lutherans, the Presbyterians, the Seventh-day Adventists, the Jews, the Muslims, the Catholics, the Protestants. Every religious denomination took money from the federal government in the guise of refugee resettlement. And they smuggled not only men and women, but they smuggled children under the guise of God. That is a fact. And that is a major problem in America, is our religious leaders have sold us for 30 pieces of silver.
I want to make a comment. You mentioned Soros, but I was listening to a program the other day where Antifa gets like $300 million from a variety of sources. And not only was Soros mentioned, but Ford and Rockefeller.
Yes, and tithes and all that.
Yeah.
But we're paying, see, it's a beautiful, they're very smart. Like they're geniuses. They put a little seed money in, and then all of us suckers fund it. They're parasites. We're the host. And once a host realizes that they're being sucked by parasites, what does the host do? It kills all the parasites. We're at that point. We're funding our own demise. Our money that we're bankrupt, and they're printing, and they're devaluing our dollar. We're using, and this is by Joe Biden's terms, in 4 years, they spent over $1 trillion on illegal aliens. That's their budget terms, not mine. $1 trillion. Do you understand? Well, $1 trillion. Dude, I can't understand what $1 trillion is. And anybody that says they can wrap their brain around it, they're lying. You have no idea how much money that is. It's like absurd. We can't even fathom. But we gave $1 trillion to illegal aliens. We're all suffering. In America, the dollar's devalued. That's why I'm saying we're at that point in our history. We're at that point. Do you think, maybe this is the best question I can ask. Do you think our founding fathers would have ever allowed this to happen? No. You see the memes I see? Our founding fathers would have already been stacking bodies. And that's the truth. So what happened to us? Yes, sir.
Thank you, first of all, JJ, for coming and telling the truth like you have been doing and everything. My name is Philip Sherman. I'm running for state representative. And I'm wondering, what is the best thing that I can do when I'm elected as a state representative in the state legislature to affect change in the right way?
That's a great question, and I applaud you for getting involved, because what you're doing is the left did, right? The left took over city councils, they took over state legislatures in red states. My advice to you is, as a state rep, I would attack the NGOs, I would attack the sanctuary cities. Anyone that has sanctuary cities gets all their funding pulled. That just has to be the way it is. And then I would funnel money into law enforcement. I don't want a law enforcement state, but we're at the point that, I mean, you being from Missouri, you have major sucks in your state. You got St. Louis is sucking you dry, and you got Kansas City. Kansas City bleeds onto me. Those are two cities that are ultra violent, that have crime skyrocketing. But why should Marshall pay more of their fair share to take care of stuff in St. Louis? But as a state legislator, I would say I would never allow any faith-based people to bring in illegal aliens and settle them. If you don't think that's going to happen, you don't think that would happen to Marshall? I've dictated this in my books. This is happening across America. You just got lucky. You don't have 20,000 Haitians dumped in Marshall. You think that's hyperbole? It's happened across America, and I detail it. So I would attack that. I would never, ever allow any Joe Biden, Trump, anyone to allow quote, refugees into anywhere that you represent.
What about the human trafficking aspect? Is there anything that the state of Missouri should be trying to do to clear that up?
Yes. in rural areas, you don't have a marshal PD, I'm assuming. You have run by sheriffs, correct?
We have city police.
You have city police?
Yeah.
Okay, city police, and then on the outskirts, you have the sheriffs, correct? Okay. You will be shocked if you went to your sheriff, and I don't know him, I'm not saying anything bad, or your chief of police and ask him, how many people do you have on your human smuggling task force? One, maybe. How many do you have on your narcotic task force? Well, I have like 30. Well, which one is more? And if you think that you don't have child trafficking or human trafficking coming through Marshall, wake up. Wake up. The best place to hide anything is in plain sight. Let me give you an example. Houston, I know Houston's a big place, blah, blah, blah. This was 2 months ago, I'm watching this, and I'm like, yes, I know this, I live this. In a neighborhood, a regular, average neighborhood, they're interviewing the neighbors that were right across the street from the house and the neighbor right next to it. And they were shocked as they pulled out 100 people out of a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. And they were using it as the landing mat. Where would I, if I wanted to be a smuggler, a human smuggler, a narco smuggler, well, I'd come here. I would just be JJ, I just came from, Leawood. I'm here now, I just got a nice house. And you don't ever see me. And I bring my narcotics and my kids and my people all through here. Why wouldn't I? People ask me that all the time in Kansas City. You really think this is happening in Kansas City? I go, what are you on, drugs? I said, every major corporation in the world, including our federal government, through the biggest IRS and the biggest immigration, the biggest everything, comes to Kansas City. Why? Because it's middle of America. This is the same apparatus that Amazon uses. You're telling me the narco smugglers don't use the same routes as Amazon? It's the same thing, it's a business. And human smuggling has caught up to the money of the narco smuggler because, and this is important for you to hear, why does, in 24 years in my career, narco smugglers hated the human smugglers? They hated, they wouldn't even deal, they wouldn't talk to them. I could see them on the south side. They'd beat them up, they'd abuse them, because human smuggling is dirty. It's kind of like JV. But when I sell cocaine or heroin, I sell it one time. It's gone. I take a little boy from Guatemala that's 5 years old. I can sell him for a year, and I can make $200,000 to $250,000 on that boy's body until he's raped to death. That's why the narco smugglers have taken over the human smuggling, more specifically the child sex trafficking. Because each kid is worth $200,000 to $250,000 a year. And if I can keep that kid going for 2 or 3 years, if I can take that little girl with all of her vaginal tears and anal tears and all of her STDs and all the trauma until she dies, then I just made $500,000, $750,000. That's why what our government did, let me be very clear, who is our government? We are. We allowed, and I'm going to tell you, it ain't 550,000, that's what's been in record. I would feel comfortable saying at least 1.5 million children crossed the border. And they disappeared. I see a young man in the back. I have a 14-year-old son. I lost my son for at least 3 seconds in a grocery store. And he freaked out and he'll never run from me again, and I saw him. That's the only, I don't lose my son. How do you lose over 500,000 children? And they have not been recovered. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand how evil we have become as a nation? We have to speak honestly about it. No one wants to talk about child sex trafficking. I get it. But it's happening. And it's right here in your community. You don't think it's here. You think it's happening just in St. Louis or How do you hide 550,000 children? Do you understand how many people that is? This is what our government allowed to happen, and there's no freaking urgency to find them. If I had 30 seconds with Donald Trump, I would ask him many, many things. But one thing I would tell him immediately, say, sir, I have 30 seconds. Here we go. You have a moral obligation to find every single one of these 550,000 children. And then when you're done that, or simultaneously you're doing that, you need to find the over 400,000 children that we lose every year in America. And it has to be, this is a moral imperative on the soul of the United States of America. If you think, I'm not a theologian, but I'm not an idiot either. If the God that wiped off the face of the earth of every living being, that being that I believe in, is looking down on us and seeing us mutilating our children, we're mutilating them so much, and we have such a craving desire to have sex with children that we imported over 1 million of them. Do you honestly think, as a average Christian, that God is just going to allow that to happen? There's no way in hell. He's just going to sit there silently as his children are being brutalized. And they're being brutalized right now as I'm speaking. I'm testifying in front of Congress, and I'm testifying in front of you right now. Right now as I'm speaking, in this last hour, at least 1,000 kids. At least 1,000 kids were brutally raped. Right now, right in this hour, horrors that you can't even fathom. You can't even fathom. I'm not talking about Juan and Susie or Mohammed from Sudan that's 7 years old. I'm not saying they were touched. I'm saying their bodies, their little tiny beautiful bodies, were sold up to 20 times a day. Do you understand? There are people that we're interviewing now that say, yes, how many times were you raped? I'm 21 years old now. I have been raped 60,000 times. You take an average woman that gets raped, God forbid, I can't even imagine that horror. One time, one horrible evening, one day, this woman gets raped. Her life died that day. This is a new woman. She's going to go through a life of pain and agony and suffering. She's going to rail against God. She's going to get healed. She's going to pray. But she will never be that woman that she was. She can't be. She just can't be. How strong, weak, it doesn't matter. She can't be that. Now you tell me, as horrible as that is for a U.S. citizen woman to be raped and have her life ripped upon her, we're going to sit here and think it's okay that a child is raped 20 times a day? We have to have these conversations. You, sir, if you get in front of in the state legislature, you have to have these conversations in your state house, open in front of everyone. Because if you turn your eyes, you gaze away, or it's too painful to hear little Susie that has her vagina shredded, or Juan that can't go to the bathroom forever again because they have raped his anus 20 times a day for a year. If that's too hard for you to hear, and you don't want to hear it, well, guess what? You've become the part of the problem. Because as much as you're uncomfortable right now, me talking about vaginal and anal rapes and tears and STDs, and you're uncomfortable listening to this, can you imagine what it's like to be 7 years old on a dirty mattress watching men circulate into your room all day and night? Kind of makes your uncomfortable feeling a little ridiculous, doesn't it? But this is happening in America. Do you think that it's an accident that we're the #1 consumer of child pornography? Do you understand what I'm saying? In the world, not not in North America, which would be horrible enough. In the world, we consume more child pornography than everyone else. There are hundreds of millions of pictures of pedophilia, millions of videos of pedophilia. Do you know how many pedophiles there are needed to consume that much material? That's not 10,000, 20,000 pedophiles in our community, in our society. That's millions. This is what our world, our nation has come to, people. And we have to have these discussions. If I sound passionate, if I sound a little angry, I am. But we have to talk like this. Because if we don't, and we remain silent, then we become this. And we have become this. Do you understand? We all need to get on our knees and we need to pray to God. And then at the same time, we got to get off our knees and we got to do what God wants, and that's fight. Because prayer is not enough. You have to get in the ballgame. God gave each of us a talent. Whatever that talent is, He gave it to us. You have to use it to make America great again. To make America more moral again. To make America Christian again. We were founded not by immigrants. We were founded by settlers that came here for religious freedom. We're a Christian nation. To be told anything else is blasphemy. We're a Christian nation. Stick your chest out. Be proud about being a Christian. Be proud about what we've created in America. And demand that we retain our cultural and societal norms. Our demographics stay the same. Look what's happened in Japan. They just elected a prime minister, brand new. You know what she said? Yeah, everyone that's here, get out. We believe in Japan culture. We believe in Japanese demographics. And if you can't fit in, I want you gone. And she won by a landslide. Why can't we ask for the same thing? It's not racist to ask that. It's not. But we must be bold.
Now, JJ,
Yes,
the question I have for you is, why keep have you tried using U.S. military, ex-military, for recruitment?
Well, you know what? That's a great question. And I have been saying that since this started, before Trump came in. I said he needs to go out and recruit all the former military guys. All of those guys. You're going to tell me, you give me 1,000 former Iraqi, Afghanistan, Somali, Yemen warfighters and put them in Chicago, how many blue-haired crazy people and how many Antifa with the skinny arms living in their mother's basement are they going to engage with those men? It is not going to happen. So I heard a great interview today while I'm driving. It was Nick Fuentes and Doug Carlson had an interview. And their discussion, at one point that it struck me, and I said, yes, 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 yes. If you do not go all in, we are going to lose. And going all in is the military. And don't tell me or try to say, well, we can't have the military on our soil. What, are you kidding me? Our military's been in America's society since our founding. They've come in and taken over things all the time. They're part of the law enforcement apparatus. And yes, sir, we need those men back. It is all hands on deck right now.
Well, a lot of cops are ex-military, you okay?
Yeah, so I'm for everything. I'm for, if you are still physically fit and you can do the job, then I want you in the fight. So if I have ex-military, former state, local PD, former federal agents, all of them then need to be in. And don't tell me about money. How about we take back $300 billion from Ukraine and fund this?
Yeah, the other question I have is, actually, there are two questions. How many citizens are Hispanic Latinos in our country? I never heard that. And the other thing is, a lot of liberals are probably crying a lot about money since they shut down USAID.
Yeah, USAID got shut down, and that was the major funder. The federal government used that as the money laundering mechanism. How many Hispanics they have surpassed Black Americans?
Hispanic citizens in the country.
Yeah, Hispanic American citizens. So it's like 40, what is it, 10? So I'm just doing a quick math.
42 million.
It's over 42 million because they surpassed the black population. They've surpassed the black. Now, anybody in the black community voted for that? It's all artificial. Again, nobody cares about race if we're American citizens, but when you artificially change our demographics, do you think this is happening in Russia? Do you think this is happening in China? Japan's expelling everyone. You think this is happening in Iran? No. Do you think I can go to Iran and bring 30 million of us? Say, hey, we're going to speak English, Christian masses, outdoors, we're going to pray to our God, Jesus Christ. We're putting crosses all around. And the kicker is, the mullah of Iran, we're not, all 30 million of us are not going to work.
I'm talking about legal Hispanics, not...
That's what I'm talking about, sir. They're U.S. citizens that are Hispanic have surpassed black Americans in demographics, in total number of citizens in America. Now, when you start adding the 105 million foreigners, then everything's askew. Everything is askew.
JJ, if there are 100 people in this room that absolutely believe you, we know 10,000 people that don't want to believe you. That seems to be the real problem.
Well,
I don't know how you can respond to that.
I don't know if, I think there is more than a significant percentage of Americans that believe what we believe.
Good.
Because I don't think what I'm saying is controversial. Like, I'm a flawed man, but I think I'm a nice guy. I think that I'm kind. I don't use violence. I don't try to hurt anybody. I'm not malicious. And I don't think that I'm malicious in the way that I speak either. I think that I'm just stating a factual statement where I look at it from research, experience, and just being halfway, like several brain cells rather than my brain, to say, this is what has happened. I can acknowledge that this is the outcome. And if I go a couple steps, this is what's going to happen. And it's not racist, it's not crazy to point and say, look what's going to happen to America. Look what's happened now. We all agree, even the leftists will agree, we got a problem. This is what's going to happen. And it's not going to happen 100 years from now. It's going to happen, the devastation will happen shortly.
We got a question here.
Going back to trying to save the United States, I'm always concerned about the assimilation of foreigners coming in. You'll have pockets of people not wanting to learn the English language and communicate with each other in our English language up north, northern states, I'm sure out in California and some of the other states. What do you see about this and gangs forming within those regions?
Well, the gangs are here. TDA is here. When Trump said Venezuela, Haiti, Cuba, all those in the third world nations were emptying their prisons and their insane asylums, and everyone said he's crazy, that was the truth. They just emptied everybody. So we have all those people here. They're not going to assimilate. Because, sir, why should they assimilate, honestly? They're getting free housing, free healthcare, free education, free food. They don't have to work. They get enclaves. I'll give you a great example. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Minnesota, one of the whitest states. When you think of Minnesota, you think of blonde hair, blue eyes, white skin, Vikings, snow, lakes. One thing you don't think of in Minnesota is the largest population of Somalians outside of Somalia. But Obama brought in over 10,000, now it's up to about 80,000 Somalians in Minnesota. They elect a vile human being, Ilhan Omar, that hates America. They are now the #1 perpetrator of COVID fraud, Medicaid fraud, every fraud you can imagine tied to Somalian illegal and legal aliens in Minnesota. So my point is, this has already happened. I'll give you, I can give you dozens, but I'll give you one more, because you're saying about assimilation. There's a city in Springfield, Ohio. There's a city in Ohio called Springfield. Springfield, 5 years ago, had 40,000 residents. Kind of like this, but a little bigger. In 4 years, Joe Biden dumped 20,000 Haitians in Springfield. 1 in 3 residents in Springfield is a Haitian, Voodoo, non-English speaker. They have an epidemic of car crashes because they're just giving them license and they're driving, you won't believe this, the epidemic they have are cars flying into buildings and homes. That's the #1 response from the fire department. Another car flew into a building. Trump got mocked, but they are eating the pets, the cats and the dogs, and going to the ponds and eating the geese. The whole wing of the hospital for those 40,000 people, they have a whole wing dedicated to HIV. They have an epidemic of STDs. The kids can't go to school because there's nowhere for the native-born children to go. They have to bring in English as a second language that takes money from their schools. Springfield, Ohio is a dead city. They just don't know it. I'll give you another one in Indiana. Same thing. Just south of Indianapolis by 60 miles. Small town of 20,000 people. They now have to have English as a second language for 28 different languages in their schools. They're bankrupt. And I'm going to tell you, this is not a threat. I'm not trying to, it's not hyperbole. You need to be on your best observation here. You're a prime candidate. What if I put 5,000 Afghanis in Marshall? Think it's going to go well? But here's the deal. They're legal, and guess what they'll do? They will vote in 3, 4, 5 in your city council. That's done. And your mayor now is an Afghani. So they're doing this systematically throughout America right now. This is happening. If you don't think it's happening, just Google, go home, Google, or DuckDuckGo me, or look it up. Go on X. X is almost the best search engine now, and it still has problems. But this is happening across America. It's no longer a big city issue. It is an every town and city issue.
I've got a question back here, and by the way, the things you just said about Springfield, Ohio, and the other community it's in the book, and it's such an easy read book. Here's a question.
Well, I'm not really sure how to ask it, but how do I talk to my friends that are liberal and hate the administration so much right now that they will let the demise of the country happen versus save the country? How do we communicate with our friends in our town?
That's tough, right? Because you have friends and family. I don't have any family that are liberal, and I don't really have any friends that are liberal too. But I'll take that back. My next door neighbor is almost 90 years old, Vietnam certified war hero, Silver Star, incredible man, liberal, hates Trump. And the way I talk to him is just with civility. And he and I will find what won't set him off, and then he and I will focus on that. It could be schools, it could be the belief in God, how it's changing, And then I'll just start, he hates ice. And I said, hey, Wayne, I'm gonna go work for ICE. And what do you hate about it? And then we have that discussion. But there comes a time, right, that you just have to say, I can't waste any more of my breath to talk to you. And that's sad, it's hard. I'm 56, I hope I have a lot of breaths left, but I know they're counted. I'm not going to waste it, right? So it's hard, and we're seeing this happen across America where, isn't it interesting, they had the No Kings rally. Was anybody out there, any conservatives, did you see out there throwing stuff at them, screaming at them, ripping their signs down, punching them, shooting them, ramming them with cars? No. So there has to be an acknowledgement that they are the problem. They are the ones that come and attack us. But we have to be prepared. And I believe we need to be prepared physically. I just do. Yes, sir.
There's been some talk recently about limiting governmental positions to U.S.-born citizens. Is there any future in that?
I think there is, and I've been screaming for that forever. I think you'd be shocked. We don't know the real number of dual citizens that are in our Congress. I graduated from the United States Border Patrol Academy in 1997. You couldn't become a U.S. citizen unless you renounced your citizenship, wherever that is, England, Germany, wherever. I don't know, sir, where in the hell that changed. I called my guys that are still in the Border Patrol that have, it's the Immigration Nationality Act, the INA. That's the Bible of immigration. And I don't have mine anymore. I know it front and back. So I called and said, hey, you're an instructor at the academy. Did they change that? Like, is that a new law that I just am ignorant? No, dude. No, it's still there. So we have ignored our own law, and we have people in our Congress. I'll give you one that's very personal. I testified in front of Congress, and one of the congresswomen that hates Border Patrol and ICE, her name is Dalia Ramirez. She's a congresswoman from Chicago. Do you know that Congressman Ramirez was in Mexico City for a Latino conference, and she said in Spanish, hoping no one here would hear, I am a Guatemalan first before I'm an American. And in her congressional testimony, when she slandered me, she openly admitted that she's an illegal alien. She's married to an illegal alien. Her mother and father and her uncles are illegal aliens. That is in our government. So the idea that this is not inside of our government is a fallacy. The enemy is our government. We have foreign nationals that are inside of our government. It is unbelievable. Ilhan Omar, she married her brother, committed immigration fraud. That's not even like a conspiracy. That is proven fact. You have Representative Garcia from in California. He crossed the border legally with his family and then overstayed his visa, and now he is a congressman. How do you think they're going to rule? How do you think they're going to make judgments on Americans? They're going to side against us, but I believe that's a big thing coming. Yes, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much for being such a great audience. I know it's a hard topic, but it's a topic that has to be discussed, so thank you very much.
As hopeless as it sounds, Jesus Christ is the answer. So we can't lose sight of that.
We have books and tapes right where you're at.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say that. I read this book, and it's an easy read, and it's worth it, and I'd encourage you to get one. Secondly, our speaker next month on the 25th of November is going to be Dusty Blue. Dusty Blue's a podcaster. He is extremely good. And I sure would encourage you to put November 25th on your calendar to come that night. And it's because of you all that people like JJ comes and people like Dusty Blue comes. So thank you all so much. Thank you.